He had not planned to be there for long. The restaurant was just a quiet place near the hotel, chosen only because it was close and looked calm enough for a late dinner. The man wore a simple dark jacket, nothing flashy, even though his bank account could easily afford much more. To most people, he looked like any other customer who had a long day and wanted a warm meal before heading back to his room. He sat alone at a small table near the window. Outside, the streetlights glowed softly, lighting up the familiar roads of the college town he had not visited in years. This place once felt like the center of his world. Now it felt distant, like a chapter from another life. When the waitress approached his table, holding a small notepad and a polite smile, he barely looked up at first. He was checking messages on his phone, dealing with work, even this late at night. But then she spoke. "Good evening. What can I get for you?" Her voice made him pause. It was calm, slightly tired, but kind. Something about it felt familiar in a way he could not explain. He slowly looked up, ready to place his order, and that was when everything changed. For a moment, he forgot where he was. The woman standing in front of him wore a plain uniform, her hair tied back neatly. Her face looked older than he remembered, touched by time and stress, but her eyes were the same. Those eyes had once been full of excitement, always focused on the future. His heart skipped. He stared a little too long, and she noticed. "Is everything okay?" She asked gently, her smile still there, though now with a hint of confusion. He swallowed and nodded. "Yes, sorry, I was just thinking." She waited patiently. As she stood there, memories rushed into his mind. Late nights at the library, coffee cups scattered across study tables, long talks about dreams, plans, and the kind of life they wanted after graduation. There was no doubt now. It was her. His old college friend. Back then, she was one of the smartest people he knew. She always sat in the front row, always asked thoughtful questions, always pushed herself harder than anyone else. Professors admired her. Other students looked up to her. She had big goals and the drive to reach them. And now she was standing here, taking orders in a small restaurant. He felt a tight knot form in his chest. He quickly ordered something simple, barely paying attention to what he said. She wrote it down, thanked him, and walked away toward the kitchen. As she left, he watched her for a few seconds longer than he should have. He leaned back in his chair, his appetite gone. He could not stop thinking about it. He had not seen her since graduation day. Life moved fast after that. Job offers, risks, long nights building something from nothing. Failure, success, and more success after that. Interviews, headlines, money. More money than he ever imagined. He had worked hard, yes, but he also knew luck had played its part. And her? What happened to her? As he waited for his food, he glanced around the restaurant. It was clean but modest. A few families sat together. A couple laughed quietly in a corner booth. The air smelled of fried food and coffee. This was not a bad place, but it was not the future she once talked about with such passion. When she returned with his plate, she placed it down carefully. "Here you go. Let me know if you need anything else," she said. He looked up again. This time, she seemed to study his face more closely. "Do I know you?" she asked, her brow slightly furrowed. He hesitated. In that moment, he did not know what to say. Part of him wanted to speak her name, to bring back the past right away. Another part of him feared making things awkward or painful. "I think we went to the same college," he said finally, choosing his words carefully. Her eyes widened just a little. She leaned back, looking at him more closely now. "Really?" she said. "Which year?" "Same class," he replied. "Business program." She went quiet for a second. Then her face softened with recognition, followed by surprise. "Oh," she said slowly. "Wow, It's been a long time." She smiled, but this smile was different. It carried a hint of something heavy beneath it. "Yes," he said. "It has." They shared a brief silence, one filled with memories neither of them spoke out loud. Then she straightened up, returning to her professional tone. "Well, enjoy your meal," she said. "I'll check on you later." As she walked away again, he noticed the slight tiredness in her steps. It was the kind that did not come from one long shift, but from many years of carrying responsibility. He picked at his food, barely tasting it. His mind kept replaying images from the past. She staying late to help classmates understand difficult topics. She talking about starting her own company someday. She believing that hard work would always be rewarded. He wondered when life had changed for her. After finishing his meal, he paid the bill but stayed seated. He watched her move from table to table, always polite, always patient. No one in the room seemed to know who she used to be. To them, she was just another waitress doing her job, and that thought bothered him more than he expected. When she finally came back to clear his table, he spoke again. "It was good seeing you," he said. She nodded. "You too. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with names." He smiled gently. "That's okay. It's been years." She hesitated and asked, "Are you in town for work?" "Yes," he replied. "Just for a short time." "That's nice," she said. "This town doesn't change much." "No," he agreed. "It doesn't." She gave a small laugh, then excused herself to help another customer. As he stood to leave, he paused near the door and looked back one last time. She was laughing softly at something a customer said, her expression warm and genuine. He stepped outside into the cool night air. The street was quiet, just like it used to be. He walked slowly toward his hotel, but his thoughts were loud and restless. He had not expected this trip to stir up so much emotion. Seeing her like that made him question things he rarely thought about anymore. Success had become normal for him. Comfort, security, choices. He had built a life that many admired. But tonight, all of that felt strangely hollow. He wondered if she was happy. He wondered if she ever thought about the past. Most of all, he wondered if he should do something, or if it was better to leave things as they were. As he reached his hotel, he stopped and looked back down the street, toward the small restaurant glowing in the eye. Distance. Fate had brought them into the same room again, after all these years, and he had a feeling that this meeting was not meaningless. Not at all. He couldn't stop thinking about her. That night, lying in the hotel room, the quiet hum of the air conditioner barely reached his mind, which was racing. He kept picturing her face, her eyes, the way she moved through the restaurant, carrying trays of food, always smiling, even when she must have been tired. It wasn't the same image he had of her from college. Back then, she seemed untouchable, always full of energy and ideas, always ready to take on the world. Now there was a weight in her expression he couldn't ignore. By morning, he had decided he needed answers. Not out of curiosity, but because he felt a strange responsibility. Life had given him success, opportunity, comfort, and in the back of his mind, he knew that seeing her like this, it wasn't just coincidence. Something had happened to her after college, something life-changing, and he wanted to understand. He returned to the restaurant early, before the lunch rush, choosing a quiet corner this time. The place was already coming alive, with the smell of coffee and breakfast food. Waitresses moved quickly, customers laughed softly, and a soft radio played in the background. Then he saw her. She was wiping down a counter, her sleeves rolled up, her hair tied back just like last night. She looked tired but determined, moving with precision and focus. When she noticed him, her eyes lit up in recognition again, but there was caution there, a sense of wondering why he was back so soon. He gestured for her to take a quick break, and she hesitated, but curiosity won. She followed him to a small seating area near the back. "Coffee?" he offered. She shook her head. "I'm fine," she said, though the slight slouch in her shoulders told him otherwise. For a moment, neither spoke. He watched her quietly. He remembered how in college she could sit in silence with someone and somehow still make the conversation feel important. He wanted to give her space, but also needed to know. He needed to understand how someone so talented ended up here. Finally, he spoke gently. "I've been thinking about last night. About you. I can't help wondering. What happened after college?" Her hands tightened around the coffee cup she now held, her gaze drifting to the window. "It's a long story," she said softly. "I have time," he said, his voice steady. "I really want to know." She sighed, leaning back in the chair. "After graduation, I had plans. Big plans. I wanted to start a business, work on something meaningful, make a difference. I thought I could do anything." Her eyes flicked to his, and he nodded, encouraging her silently to go on. "But life had other ideas," she continued. "My parents got sick. My father first, then my mother. Medical bills piled up, and suddenly I was trying to figure out how to keep them afloat, how to survive. There were loans I couldn't pay, opportunities I had to turn down because I didn't have the time or money. Everything I worked for just slipped away." She paused, swallowing hard. He could see the pain in her face. It was quiet, the kind of pain that isn't loud or dramatic, but it sits in your chest and weighs on you day after day. He had read stories like this, seen it in the news, but hearing it directly from her made it real, impossible to ignore. "I tried my best," she said finally, her voice breaking slightly. "I really did. I worked extra hours at a few small jobs, tried to start projects here and there, but nothing took off. Every time I thought I was close, something went wrong. And eventually, I had to give up. I had to survive. So I took this job." She gestured to the uniform she wore. "It's honest work. It pays the bills. But it's not the life I imagined for myself." He stayed silent, letting her speak without interruption. He remembered how hard she had worked in college, how dedicated she had been. To hear that life had knocked her down, despite all her effort, was hard to accept. "You never gave up completely," he said finally. "You're still here. You're still trying. That counts for something." She gave a small, tired smile. "It doesn't feel like enough," she admitted. "Sometimes I wonder if I made a mistake by dreaming so big, by believing life would work out the way I wanted. I feel like I'm behind, you know?" He nodded slowly. "I understand. But success isn't just about money or titles. You've survived. You've cared for your family. You've kept going. That takes strength most people don't have. You didn't fail, you adapted." She looked at him, surprised by his words. She had spent so many years thinking she had failed, that her dreams were over. To hear someone see the value in her struggle was new. "I don't know if I see it that way," she said quietly, staring down at her hands. "I see what I have now, and it feels small compared to what I thought I'd have. Sometimes I feel invisible, like life forgot about me." He leaned forward slightly, his voice gentle but firm. "Life didn't forget about you. Life is messy, unpredictable. But you, your mind, your heart, your dedication, those things matter. They haven't disappeared. You just haven't had the chance to show them yet." She blinked, a tear forming in her eye, and quickly brushed it away. "It's hard to believe sometimes," she whispered. "I keep thinking about all the things I could have done differently, and I hate that I let myself feel stuck." He wanted to reach across the table and reassure her, but he didn't. Instead, He let his words carry the weight he felt. You aren't stuck. You're here. You're alive. You've survived more than most people can imagine. That matters. And you're stronger than you realize. She looked at him, her eyes searching, as if trying to find a reason to believe him. He could see the hesitation in her heart, the quiet longing to be acknowledged for the person she had always been. Thank you, she said softly, almost a whisper. No one's ever said that to me. Not really. He smiled faintly. You deserved to hear it a long time ago. They sat in silence for a few moments, the background noise of the restaurant fading into the distance. He wanted to ask more, to learn everything about how life had shaped her, but he also knew he needed to let her set the pace. The last thing he wanted was to make her feel judged or pitied. Finally, she spoke again, her voice steadier. You know, it's not all bad. I've learned a lot. I know what I'm capable of, even if it's not in the way I imagined. And I've met people along the way who've been kind, who've helped me when I didn't expect it. That's something. He nodded. That's a start. And it shows that even in the hardest moments, you find a way to keep moving. That's real strength. She smiled faintly, and he noticed a flicker of the old spark in her eyes, the one he remembered from college. It wasn't gone. Life had been tough, but she hadn't lost herself completely. You've done well for yourself, she said suddenly, changing the subject. I saw the news once. Your company. It's impressive. He shrugged, trying to appear casual. It's been a journey. Nothing happens overnight. She nodded thoughtfully. I guess we all have different paths. Yes, he said quietly. But sometimes paths cross again when you least expect it. He looked at her, and there was a weight in his gaze. I'm glad ours did. She blinked, and he saw her hesitate, unsure what to say. Finally, she just nodded and smiled softly. Me too. After a few more minutes, she glanced at the clock. I should get back, she said. There's a lunch rush coming. He stood as well. Of course. Thank you for sharing that with me. She paused at the door, looking back. It was nice to talk. Makes me feel like maybe things aren't as hopeless as I thought. He gave a small smile. They're not. I promise you that. As she walked away, he watched her move with determination, even though life had clearly tested her. He thought about all she had been through, all she had sacrificed, and he realized something. Seeing her here, surviving, adapting, and still caring, that was a form of success in itself. And yet, he also knew she deserved more. She had talent, intelligence, and vision that could not be ignored. He left the restaurant that morning with a new sense of purpose. He had seen her struggle, but he had also seen her resilience. He knew he couldn't leave it at that. Not this time. He wanted to help her, but in a way that respected her dignity, not in a way that made her feel pitied. For the first time in a long time, he felt a fire inside him that had nothing to do with work, money, or recognition. It had to do with someone he cared about, someone whose potential had been dimmed by circumstances outside her control. And he couldn't stop thinking about what he could do not for himself, but for her. The rest of the day passed slowly, but he kept returning to the same thought. Life had tested her, but it hadn't broken her. And maybe, just maybe, he could help her find a path that matched her true potential again. As the evening came, he knew one thing with certainty. Tomorrow he would return. And when he did, he would not just watch from afar. He would find a way to reach out, to make a difference in her life, not as a charity case, but as someone who believed in her. The city lights began to glow, and he walked back to his hotel, thinking about the journey that had brought her here and the one that could take her somewhere new. He had no plan yet, no clear path, but one thing was clear: he couldn't let this moment pass. Not when he had the means, the ability, and the desire to help someone who had once dreamed as big as he had. And with that thought, he fell asleep that night, knowing that tomorrow could be the start of something that neither of them had expected, but both of them needed. He woke up early the next morning with the weight of last night pressing on his mind. The city was quiet outside his hotel window, but inside, his thoughts were anything but calm. He kept replaying her words, the way she had looked at him when she talked about her struggles, the way her eyes had flickered with both sadness and determination. He knew she had been through more than most people could imagine, and yet she carried herself with dignity and quiet strength. That combination made him restless, and for the first time in months, he couldn't focus on anything else. He dressed quickly, choosing simple clothes, and walked to the restaurant before it opened for the day. He needed to see her again, not just to check on her, but because he felt that there was something important waiting between them, a chance to reconnect, to acknowledge her worth, and perhaps to help her see herself in a new light. When he arrived, the restaurant was empty, except for the early staff preparing for the day. She was already there, setting up tables and arranging chairs, moving with efficiency, but also with a quiet tension. She didn't notice him at first, so he took a moment to watch. He remembered her as she had been in college, meticulous, determined, always focused. Even now, despite everything, that same energy lingered in the way she moved and worked. Finally, she looked up and caught his gaze. Her eyes widened slightly, a mixture of surprise and wariness. "You're back early," she said, her voice soft but guarded. "I couldn't stay away," he replied, trying to keep his tone casual. "I wanted to see how you were doing." She nodded slowly, a small smile forming, though it didn't reach her eyes completely. "Well, I'm still here, same as yesterday," she said. He pulled up a chair and sat across from her. "I know," he said gently, "and that's why I wanted to talk. I've been thinking a lot about what you said yesterday, about life, about your dreams, and about where you are now." She shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't mean to make things heavy. You've got your own life to worry about." He shook his head. "No, that's not it. I want to understand. I want to know your story, not just because I care, but because I respect you. I've seen what people can do when life is easy. I want to see what you've done when life hasn't been easy." Her expression softened, and she leaned back slightly, taking a deep breath. "It's not simple," she said. "After college, everything I imagined for myself, it didn't happen. I thought I'd be working on my own business by now, making something meaningful. I wanted to build something I could be proud of, something that mattered." He nodded. "I remember those conversations. You were so passionate, so full of ideas. I always admired that about you." She smiled faintly at the memory, but then sighed. "Life had other plans. My parents fell ill, and suddenly everything I thought I could achieve became impossible. I had to take care of them, and with medical bills piling up, I had no choice but to find a job that could pay the rent and keep food on the table. I tried other things, small projects, side jobs, but none of them worked out. One after another, doors closed, and I kept falling back on survival mode. That's how I ended up here." He felt a sharp pang in his chest. He had imagined struggles, challenges, even setbacks, but not this level of relentless pressure that life had placed on her shoulders. And yet, he saw something remarkable in the way she spoke. She was tired, yes, but she was also still standing, still trying. That resilience was rare, and he felt a surge of admiration for her. "You've been through more than most people face in a lifetime," he said softly. "And you're still here. That's incredible. You shouldn't underestimate what that says about you." She shook her head. "It doesn't feel incredible," she said. "It feels ordinary, like everyone else is moving forward, and I'm stuck." People don't see the struggles behind the uniform, the bills, the exhaustion. They just see someone doing a job, and that's all. He leaned forward, his tone earnest. But that's exactly why it's remarkable. Because surviving isn't easy. Thriving in the face of hardship is what makes someone extraordinary, even if the world doesn't notice. You've carried responsibilities most people wouldn't even think about. You've made sacrifices that others would never understand. That's strength, not ordinary. She blinked, as if surprised by his words. I never thought about it that way, she admitted. Most of the time, I just feel tired. Like I'm running in place. I know that feeling, he said quietly. I've been there too, in different ways. But I learned something important. Being tired, struggling, facing setbacks, it doesn't define you. What defines you is that you keep going, that you don't give up even when it feels impossible. And you've done that. For a moment, she was silent, staring into her cup. Then she looked up, her eyes glistening. It's hard to believe anyone sees that in me, she whispered. I see it, he said without hesitation. I've always seen it. And now, more than ever, I want you to see it too. Life hasn't given you what you deserved, but that doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't mean your story is finished. Her gaze dropped to the table again. But what can I do now? I'm here, working shifts, barely making ends meet. My dreams feel out of reach. He took a deep breath, thinking carefully. He didn't want to offer empty words or promises that sounded like charity. He wanted to show her that there was still a path forward, one that respected her intelligence, her skills, and her determination. You start small, he said. You look for opportunities that use the strengths you already have. You don't need to start over completely. You've learned so much from surviving, from problem solving under pressure. Those are skills people pay millions for. You've already built experience that most people spend years trying to acquire. You just haven't seen it as valuable yet. She frowned, skeptical. Experience? I've been serving tables. How is that experience worth anything? It's worth everything, he said firmly. You've managed stressful situations, handled multiple responsibilities, adapted when things went wrong. You've kept people happy, worked with a team, solved problems on the fly. Those are leadership skills, and people underestimate how rare they are. You just need the right opportunity to show them. She was quiet again, digesting his words. Slowly, a spark returned to her eyes, the same spark he remembered from college, the one that had always set her apart. It was faint, but it was there, beneath the exhaustion and doubt. Maybe you're right, she said softly. But opportunities like that, they don't come to people like me. They do, he said without hesitation. Sometimes we just have to create them ourselves. And sometimes people who see your potential can help. I want to be that person for you, not as a favor, but because I know what you're capable of. Her eyes widened slightly, a mixture of surprise and disbelief. You really think I have potential? I don't just think it, he said. I know it. You've always had it. Life just made it hard to show. But that doesn't mean it's gone. It's still inside you, waiting for the right moment. She swallowed hard, and he could see her mind racing. For years, she had doubted herself, had believed her dreams were too far away, that she had missed her chance. And now, here was someone telling her that wasn't true, that her abilities were still real, still valuable, and still worthy of recognition. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You don't need to say anything yet, he said gently. Just remember this moment. Remember that someone believes in you. And start thinking about what you want next, not what you think you deserve, but what you truly want. The rest we can figure out together. She nodded slowly, still processing everything. Okay, she said finally. I'll try. I haven't tried in a long time. That's all I ask, he said, smiling. Trying is the first step. And the rest? We'll take it one step at a time. They stayed there for a while, talking quietly about small things the city, memories from college, the little dreams she still held on to. For the first time in years, she spoke without the weight of shame or failure pressing on her. She laughed softly at a memory from a study session, and he felt a sense of relief. The person he remembered was still there, under the weight of life, waiting for a chance to shine again. When she finally returned to work, he watched her move through the restaurant with new eyes. She was still the same person, but now he could see her differently, not as someone struggling, but as someone capable, resilient, and valuable. As he left the restaurant that afternoon, he felt a quiet determination settle in him. He had seen her struggle, and he had seen her strength. And now he knew that he couldn't just walk away. There was a chance here, a chance to help someone reclaim a part of themselves, to create an opportunity that could change everything. For the first time, he felt not just empathy, but purpose. Not for himself, but for her. And he knew that tomorrow, when he returned, he would begin to act on it, not with money, not with pity, but with a plan that would honor her talent, her hard work, and her resilience, because some people deserve more than survival. Some people deserve to shine. And he was determined to make sure she had that chance. The next morning, he woke with a sense of clarity that had eluded him before. After days of thinking, observing, and reflecting, he had made a decision. He wasn't going to let this moment pass. He had seen her potential, her strength, and her resilience. He knew she deserved more than the life she was living now. Not because she needed charity, but because she had talent that the world had overlooked for too long. He arrived at the restaurant early, just as the first hints of daylight touched the streets. The place was quiet, filled only with the sounds of chairs scraping on the floor and the low hum of the refrigerator. She was already there, wiping down tables, setting up for the morning crowd. Her movements were steady, almost mechanical, but there was something in her posture that spoke of years of hard work and endurance. When she noticed him, she gave a small, polite nod. "You're early again," she said softly, her voice carrying a hint of curiosity and caution. "I wanted to talk," he said gently. "Do you have a few minutes?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I can step into the back for a moment." They moved to a quiet corner, away from the kitchen noise. He could see the fatigue in her eyes, the subtle way her shoulders slumped under the weight of her responsibilities. Yet beneath that, he also saw a flicker of the spark he remembered from college, the spark of someone who had dreams, ideas, and intelligence that could not be erased. "I've been thinking a lot about you," he began, his voice calm but firm. "Not just about yesterday, but about everything you've told me, everything I've seen. You're capable of more than this, more than the job, more than surviving. And I want to help you get there." Her eyebrows knitted together slightly. "Help me?" she asked, skeptical. I don't even know how that would work. I've been out of the business world for years. I don't even know where to start." "You don't have to know," he said. "You have the intelligence, the resilience, the ability to lead. That's what matters. I can help you find the right place to use it. I have a new project coming up, and I need someone I can trust, someone smart, someone who doesn't give up. That's you." She stared at him, processing his words. "Are you serious?" She whispered. "You? You want me to work with you? Like, really?" He nodded. "I'm serious. I don't want this to feel like charity. I want it to feel like an opportunity, a place where you can use your skills and ideas. You've already proven you can handle challenges. Now I want to see you thrive." Her eyes widened, a mixture of disbelief and emotion crossing her face. I don't even know what to say. This isn't something I ever imagined would happen. Then don't say anything yet, he said gently. Just think about it. Take a moment to consider it. I don't want you to feel pressured. I want this to be your choice, not a handout. She nodded slowly, still staring at him. I need to think. I've spent so long feeling stuck, feeling like life just moves on without me. I don't even know if I can do it anymore. You can, he said firmly. I know you can. And I'll be there to support you. Not to make decisions for you, but to guide, to open doors, to help you take what you've learned and apply it in a way that matters. You've already survived so much. This is just the next step. She looked down at her hands, twisting her fingers nervously. I've been dreaming about doing something meaningful for so long, but I always thought it was too late. That life had already passed me by. And now, you're telling me there's a chance? There's always a chance, he said. Life isn't over. Not for you, not for anyone. You've spent years building strength, resilience, and wisdom. Now it's time to use it. And I want to help you do that. She took a deep breath, her eyes meeting his. I don't know if I deserve this, she admitted quietly. You do, he said immediately. You've earned it by surviving, by learning, by never giving up. This isn't charity. It's recognition of your value. The world may have overlooked you, but I haven't, and I want to make sure you don't overlook yourself either. For a long moment, they sat in silence. The hum of the restaurant, the clatter of dishes in the distance, faded into the background. She was thinking, weighing her options, considering the possibility that life could offer her more than what she had settled for. He could see the battle in her mind, the fear of failure, the doubt, but also the hope that maybe, just maybe, this could be the chance she had been waiting for. Finally, she spoke, her voice quiet but steady. Okay, I'll do it. I'll take the opportunity. A small smile formed on his face. Good. That's all I needed to hear. She looked surprised at his reaction. That's it? You're not disappointed? You're not going to say it's too risky or that I might fail? He shook his head. No, I believe in you. I know you'll face challenges. You always do. But you'll handle them. And I'll be there to support you, not to do the work for you, but to help you navigate it. You're capable. You just haven't had the right place to prove it yet. Her lips curved into a small, genuine smile. It was the first time in years that he saw her truly light up, not just going through the motions, not just surviving, but feeling the possibility of real change. Over the next few days, he introduced her to the team she would be working with. He explained the project, the goals, and her role in a way that made it clear she was valued not for who she had been, but for what she could do. She listened, absorbed, and slowly began to regain confidence in her own abilities. Each meeting, each discussion, reminded her of what she was capable of, something she hadn't felt in years. As she began to take on small responsibilities, she found herself excited for the first time in a long while. She contributed ideas, solved problems, and began to feel the spark of her old ambition returning. She realized that the skills she had honed while surviving organization, patience, resilience, were now assets in a way she had never imagined. He watched her quietly during those first weeks. Every time she overcame a challenge, no matter how small, he felt a quiet pride. Not because he had helped her, but because she had taken what she had learned from life and used it to shine again. He remembered the tired waitress he had met days before and compared her to the woman now leading a discussion in a meeting room, confident, intelligent, and full of ideas. The transformation was remarkable, not because he had given her an opportunity, but because she had seized it and made it her own. One afternoon, after a particularly productive meeting, she stayed behind to discuss an idea she had been developing. She was animated, her eyes bright, her voice full of passion. He smiled as he listened, realizing how much she had grown in such a short time. "I never thought I could feel this way again," she admitted, leaning back in her chair. "I've been surviving for so long, just trying to make it through each day. I forgot what it felt like to really want something, to believe in myself." "You've always had that inside you," he said gently. "It was never gone. Life just made it hard to see. But now you're remembering. And that's what matters." She nodded, a small tear slipping down her cheek. "Thank you. I don't know how to say it, but thank you for believing in me." "You don't need to thank me," he said. "I didn't give you anything. You earned it. I just helped you see it." The months that followed were filled with challenges, learning, and growth. She stumbled at times, as anyone would in a new role, but she never gave up. Each setback became a lesson, each small victory a reminder of what she was capable of. And through it all, he remained a steady presence, guiding when necessary, encouraging when needed, but always allowing her to take ownership of her success. One evening, as they left the office together, she paused and looked at him. "I can't believe how far I've come in just a few months," she said softly. "It feels like a dream, like I finally found the place I'm meant to be." He smiled. "It's not a dream. It's real. You made it real by believing in yourself, by taking the chance, and by refusing to give up. That's something to be proud of." She nodded, her eyes shining with gratitude and determination. "I am proud," she said, "and I want to keep going. I want to make something meaningful, something that lasts. And I know now that I can." He looked at her, and for the first time, he felt a sense of complete satisfaction. Not from wealth, success, or recognition, but from seeing someone he cared about reclaim their life, their confidence, and their dreams. He realized that helping her had changed him too. It reminded him that success wasn't just about what you achieve for yourself. It was about what you help others achieve as well. As they walked into the night, the city lights reflecting in their eyes, he knew that this was just the beginning. Her journey was far from over, but she was no longer the tired, defeated waitress he had met weeks ago. She was a force ready to take on the world. And he felt honored to have witnessed her transformation from the very start. And in that moment, he understood something he hadn't realized before. Sometimes, the most meaningful victories aren't the ones you achieve alone. They're the ones you share with someone who never stopped believing in themselves. Even when life tried to convince them otherwise, the weeks turned into months, and the change in her was undeniable. Every day, she arrived at work not with the fatigue that had marked her time at the restaurant, but with a quiet determination that made everyone around her take notice. Her ideas were fresh, her energy contagious, and her ability to see solutions in situations others thought impossible quickly made her indispensable. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving, building, and creating in ways she had only dreamed about for years. He watched her with a mixture of pride and humility. He had offered her an opportunity, yes, but it was she who had taken it and turned it into something remarkable. Every challenge she faced, every obstacle she overcame, reinforced the truth he had known from the start. She was capable of greatness. And now, finally, the world was beginning to see it too. One afternoon, they sat together in the office after a long meeting. She was glowing, her hair slightly messy from running her hands through it in thought, her eyes bright and alive. She leaned back in her chair, a rare smile spreading across her face. "I can't believe how much has changed," she said, almost in disbelief. "A few months ago, I didn't think this kind of life was possible. I thought I'd always be stuck, working jobs that didn't matter, just trying to get by. And now, she trailed off, shaking her head. Now you're building something meaningful, he finished for her, smiling. And you've done it all yourself. I only opened the door. You walked through it, and you've done so much more than I could have imagined. She laughed softly, a sound that carried the weight of years finally lifting. I still can't believe it. I've forgotten what it feels like to believe in myself this much. I never thought I'd feel capable again. You've always been capable, he said firmly. You just needed the chance to remember it, to see it for yourself. Life can be cruel, and it doesn't hand opportunities to everyone. But you've earned every step you've taken, every achievement, and every bit of recognition that's coming your way. She looked at him, a hint of emotion in her eyes. I don't know how to thank you, she whispered. You didn't just give me a job. You gave me my confidence back. You helped me remember who I really am. He shook his head, his expression gentle. I didn't give you anything. You already had it inside you. I only helped you see it again. All the work, all the effort, all the persistence, that's yours. You've earned this. For a long moment, they sat in silence, letting the weight of the moment sink in. Outside the office window, the city moved at its usual pace, but inside, there was a stillness, a quiet recognition that something profound had shifted. She had emerged from the struggles of her past, not broken, but stronger, more determined, and ready to take on the world in her own way. Over the following months, she became a driving force in the project they had started together. Her ideas reshaped the strategy, her insights improved efficiency, and her leadership inspired those around her. People began to notice, colleagues and clients alike, and soon she was not only respected, but admired for her intelligence, creativity, and unwavering work ethic. Through it all, he remained a steady presence, not a shadow, but a guide, a supporter, someone who believed in her without ever overshadowing her accomplishments. He watched her grow, realizing that success wasn't measured by wealth or fame alone, but by the ability to help others rediscover themselves, to empower them to take control of their own lives. And in doing so, he found a satisfaction far greater than any business achievement he had ever earned. One evening, after a long day of meetings and brainstorming sessions, they stayed behind in the office. She leaned back in her chair, exhaustion mingling with satisfaction, and looked out the window at the city lights stretching endlessly in the distance. It's strange, she said quietly. I feel like I'm finally living a life I once imagined. But it's also bigger than I imagined. I didn't think I could ever feel this proud of myself. You should be, he said. You've worked hard, faced everything life threw at you, and refused to give up. That deserves pride. And now, the world can see it too. She smiled, a soft, genuine expression that reached her eyes. I've been carrying so much weight for so long, and now it feels like I can breathe again. I can think about the future without fear or doubt. I can dream. That's the most important part, he said. Dreaming. Because that's where everything begins. The rest is just the work you put in to make those dreams real. She nodded, taking a deep breath. I want to make it real. I want to build something that lasts, something meaningful, something that helps others the way you helped me. I want to create opportunities for people who feel stuck, who think life has passed them by. I don't want anyone else to feel invisible like I did. He smiled, a deep warmth spreading through him. Then you're already on the right path. You've taken your past, your struggles, and turned them into strength. And now, you're using that strength to lift others as well. That's the kind of impact that lasts. For the first time in years, she felt free, not just free from her past, but free to shape her own future. Every setback, every moment of doubt, every long, Tiring day that had seemed unbearable in her former life had led her to this point. And she realized that those struggles weren't failures. They were preparation, forging her into the person she had become, resilient, intelligent, and ready to lead. He watched her, quietly marveling at her transformation. He had known she was capable, had always known, but seeing it realized was a different experience altogether. It wasn't just about her success. It was about the journey, the struggle, and the courage it took to rise again after being knocked down by life. Months later, they launched a new initiative together, a program designed to help people who had faced setbacks find their path again. Using the lessons she had learned firsthand, she led the program with grace, passion, and insight, guiding others with the same encouragement he had once offered her. People came to her feeling lost, unsure, and defeated, and they left feeling empowered, capable, and inspired. She had turned her own struggle into a force for good, and in doing so, she had created something far greater than herself. One afternoon, after a particularly successful session, she sat in her office, reflecting on the journey she had taken. She thought about the long hours, the uncertainty, the fear, and the moments when she had almost given up. And she thought about him, the person who had believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. She realized that life had a strange way of giving second chances, of presenting opportunities when they were needed most. She leaned back in her chair, a smile spreading across her face. She had come so far, achieved so much, and yet she felt that this was only the beginning. The struggles of her past had not disappeared, but they no longer controlled her. She had reclaimed her life, her dreams, and her confidence, and she knew she could face anything that came next. That evening, as she walked through the city streets on her way home, she felt a sense of peace and purpose she hadn't felt in years. The lights of the city seemed brighter, the air lighter, and the future full of possibility. She knew there would be challenges ahead, moments of doubt and hard work. But she also knew she had the strength, the resilience, and the support to face them. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she knew she owed a part of this new life to him, not because he had given her everything, but because he had reminded her of her own worth. He had opened a door, but she had walked through it, carrying her own courage, intelligence, and determination. She had reclaimed her life on her own terms. As she reached her apartment, she paused and looked back at the skyline. The journey had been long, and at times it had seemed impossible, but she had made it. She had taken the pain, the struggles, and the setbacks and transformed them into fuel for her dreams. And now, standing at the threshold of a new chapter, she felt ready for whatever life had to offer. The millionaire watched from a distance, quietly satisfied. He had helped her see her own potential, yes, but it was she who had created the change, who had embraced the opportunity, and who had built a life worth living. And in that, he found a joy deeper than any success he had ever achieved on his own. He realized that sometimes the most meaningful victories are the ones shared, the ones that allow someone else to rise, to shine, and to reclaim what was always theirs. In the months and years that followed, she continued to thrive, grow, and inspire those around her. She never forgot the struggles that had shaped her, nor the person who had seen her worth when she couldn't. And every time she helped someone else find their path, she remembered that moment in the small restaurant when life had seemed impossibly heavy. And a single act of belief had changed everything. Her story became more than a story of success. It became a story of hope, resilience, and the power of believing in someone when they can't believe in themselves. And it served as a reminder that life, no matter how difficult, always holds the possibility for a new beginning, for dreams to be reclaimed, and for a future brighter than anyone could have imagined. And so, she moved forward, stronger, wiser, and ready. knowing that her journey had only just begun, and that the world she once thought had passed her by was now full of endless possibilities.